A brand new season of TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School, gets underway in sunny Sonoma, California. Hello and welcome to Sonoma Raceway. Ryan Marine and Calvin Fish in the broadcast booth. Amanda Busick down in the pits. 3 classes of cars set to go around a tricky 2.5 mile, 12-turn road course that is among the nation's finest. Can't wait to get started on a brand new season of touring car racing, Calvin.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild one. We got the 3 classes all running together here today. And again, starting any new year, so many unknowns, so many variables, cars switching around, new teams, new drivers, new combinations. So
much excitement, but just a moment ago, an emotional moment down on the grid when the family of the late Joe Jordan gave the command to start engines. This is what happened earlier today. An emotional moment. Joe Jordan, such an integral member of the TC paddock. Let's go down to Amanda in the pits.
Well, gentlemen, I'm standing by with Joe Jordan's wife, Janice, and we just were at the front of the grid with the driver start your engines in honor of Joe. He was a colleague, he was a friend, and he was a family of this sport. What was that like being at the top of the grid, hearing those words?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, Joe lived and died for racing, and the SRO was such a part of his family, and to be able to be there and do this in honor of him was just, thank you guys so much. An honor and a pleasure.
That was very difficult news to receive over the winter. Joe Jordan, such a great character in his career in motorsports, was about as remarkable as it was varied. I think it's safe to say Joe was a friend to anyone with a passion for this sport. His gregarious personality was certainly unique and one of a kind. So his family very much present here this weekend, there to give the command. His brother Jim Jordan is the class manager for TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School. His son Joey is racing in this race, and you might remember he was part of the broadcast team here last year when Calvin couldn't make it. He jumped in on short notice to join me for the TC races. This is Joey Jordan in the Mazda 3 that he'll be piloting. A tough moment and a tough weekend in many respects, just to be at the racetrack and not see Joe's friendly face.
Yeah, he'll be sorely missed. I mean, he just lived and breathed racing, like his wife said there, and his daughter Jana was down there as well. So sad times amongst our racing family here in the SRO paddock, and Jim is such a wonderful man, and he thought the world of his brother. I know he thinks of him every day, so he's sorely missed by us and certainly his family.
Joe would be happy to know we're about to go racing in his most beloved of categories, the touring cars. This is the starting grid. Steve Strymer on pole in TCX. It's Matt Pombo on pole in TC. Carter Fartuck debuting the new Honda Civic SI in TCA. But Calvin, this grid was not set in qualifying this morning. There were several incidents because it happened in the rain, really difficult conditions, and because they didn't get enough green flag running in, it was actually the practice 2 times that set this field.
Yeah, not everyone's focused in terms of running their fastest lap during practice. You're really just gaining data and trying to gain circuit knowledge in certain cases as well. So you'd have to say it's a jumbled grid. Certainly some of the stronger cars are towards the front of the pack, but there's also a few more buried deep in the pack, so it'll be wonderful to see how they can cut through the action here. 3 classes, wonderful mix. Really a great stepping stone through the TC classes that Jim Jordan and the series have really developed here, from TCA to TC, and now the TCX class that debuted last year with great success. And some good stories there. You got Steve Strymer finished 2nd in the championship last year on the pole. Jacob Root had 10 wins on the way to the championship. But the guy who gave him the toughest time, we believe, is back for a full season, and that's Stephen Cugliari. He won 3 of the 4 races that he competed in last year. What can he do here today?
Yep, he'll roll off in the 3rd starting spot, and we'll see what he can do. The TCX is just going from strength to strength, continues to grow. There's some rumors that additional manufacturers could be in the fold in the future, which would be a welcome piece of news. Another interesting development for the race today, Kevin Boehm. He was slated to start on pole, but he lost 5 spots. A penalty for a technical infringement. So the 2020 TCA champion and the runner-up in TC last year will have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, and that'll be a fun one to watch. Kevin is always so strong here at Sonoma. Had a win last year on his way to second place in the championship. So here we line up. First green flag racing for a lot of these drivers who aren't campaigning other championships this year. So who's ready to show up when it counts?
It'll be Steve Strymer, the gray, black, and red BMW for Hard Motorsports. West Coast team, West Coast driver, starting on pole on the left-hand side, alongside Jacob Rude, the reigning champion. Row 2, Stephen Cugliari and Mark Wilgus. Row 3, Lucas Catania and Olivia Askew. We'll take a look at some of the other drivers a bit later, but into the VP acceleration zone, and a great start here for Steve Strymer as the green flag flies on the 2022 season.
Boy, they just left that second row for dead there in terms of their pace. But look at this, Rude down to the inside, trying to make it stick. Cugliari tries to go with him. Strymer could go from first to third here in one sweet move.
Well, Cugliari knows how tough it is to run with Jacob Rude. He did it as well as anybody a year ago in Rude's championship season. Strymer initially a great jump, but now drops to third, and the fight is on for fourth as we drop back to the TC field with Matt Pombo set to go from a little bit further back. The green flag is out though, Calvin.
Yeah, that's the TCA field right there. So Carter Fartuk from the pole position in that brand new Civic SI from the point. Big battles in the middle of the field there. You can see that yellow Mini making some big moves early on.
Yeah, so the TC cars already got started. TCA now coming up the hill for the first time, led by the Skip Barber Racing School driver, Carter Fartuk.
Yes, Christian Pericarpi behind the wheel of the 61 machine this year. His father runs this team. They had some great runs last year. A lot of potential in that camp for wins.
That's the Mini that Calvin's talking about as we jump to the TC battle now. Hondas and Minis, everybody mixing it up here through the turn 7 hairpin for the first time. Big lunge up the inside. That's Kevin Boehm looking for a championship after coming up just short 1 year ago.
Yeah, some big moves on this opening lap. So he got demoted to 6th place, and now he's up to 3rd already.
Clay Williams in the TC spec Mini appears to be off the pace. That's that gray Mini right there with the wing on the back. That's how you can tell it apart from the TCA cars. This is still very much a development program for the team, and something seemed to be amiss. He does not have the pace.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there, so I'm not sure if he can do a quick reset with the electronics. We'll try and monitor that, but there's Joey Jordan looking for great things this year. They've been really working hard with the electronics on that Mazda over the last couple of seasons, and feel they're getting close. ABS is still a factor. I don't think he's got ABS actually operating on this car this weekend, so can't really attack the corners like he'd like to, but certainly making big progress in the development of that car.
And you said the key word, development. This is the 3rd year, but they had a very much truncated season a year ago, learning on the fly and doing so at the racetrack with that Mazda TC program.
That's tough to do when you're thrown in the battle. You don't have the resources or the ability to go testing every race weekend. It's like another test session, and they had to dig deep. There was some heartbreak last year, but they're trying to make it happen. Here's Pericarpi in that Mini in the number 61 machine.
Made 4 starts at the tail end of the season last year, starting in Sebring, ran at Indy, got up on the podium. Looking though for his first race win. This is a driver with basically no real-world racing experience before he jumped behind the wheel of the car last year, basically as a present, a graduation present from his father who runs the team. And I think they were all pleasantly surprised at how quick he was. Maybe everyone but Christian. I think he expected it.
He's certainly been to a lot of racetracks and observed a lot of races under his father's guidance, and watching his team operate with huge success.
And cool to see the Bucknam name racing once again. Longtime motorsports fans might know the name Ronnie Bucknam, who raced for Honda in F1 and raced at Le Mans, or his son Jeff, who made an Indy 500 start and raced in the American Le Mans Series. Well, this is the 3rd generation Spencer Bucknam making his sports car racing debut.
Yeah, knew Jeff quite well, worked with him for a number of years on a manufacturer program, so great to see that racing heritage continuing. You know, they live and breathe it just like a lot of these other families here.
To the front of the field, this is the TCX field streaming by. All of them the BMW M2. Jacob Rude doing what he did so often last year, run away and hide.
Well, not so often when Cugliari was around, though. If you remember, whenever Cugliari showed up, he was giving Jacob Rude a hard time. Won 3 of the 4 races, so let's see if Jacob Rude can turn things around a little bit. You got to feel, well, I'm coming back for a championship run, and I need to beat this man. if he's going to be around for the full season. So let's see how this race develops here. Early going so far.
Viari with the background in MX5 Cut made a handful of starts in 18, 19, 20. Made the jump over to the TCX cars, made 4 starts, as you said, Calvin. Won 3 of them, was on the podium in all 4. Those starts, by the way, came at Road America and Sebring. Proved to be the thorn in the side of Jacob Rude, if there was one. It's hard to find a chink in the armor for Jacob. He was picture perfect just about all season long.
Yeah, when you win a championship and win 10 races on the way to that title, it's hard to take the shine off, but you know from Jacob, he would have been thinking about that during the off-season, saying, I want revenge. I want to showcase that I am the main man in TCX.
Well, these were Jacob's finishes last year in TCX. First, second, fourth, first, second, first, and first. Sensing a trend?
Yeah. I wish I could putt like that. I wish I had a putting record when I'm playing golf, but not so much. Maybe the 4-putt.
Remarkable year from the Racine, Wisconsin native. Not much racing in his background either. He proved to be a very quick study. Great to have him back for the season here. Jumping back now to TCA, actually.
Yes, Colin Harrison, they're trying to put some moves on Sally McNulty, who's having a really strong season last year. A couple of top 5s, and this is a really, it's almost not a one girl band, but she does a lot of the work herself with this operation. She now gets support from Victor Gonzalez racing team, VGRT. Basically, she's allowed to put her car under the awning and get a little bit of support, but just a wonderful effort from Sally, and she's really finding her feet here in this class now.
Nice start here from Kevin Boehm, who's worked his way from 6th at the start to 2nd. He's chasing down the class leader in TC. While we watch that fight, let's go to Amanda.
I was able to catch up with Sally ahead of this race, and I don't know if you guys follow Sally McNulty on Instagram or online, but it's a good follow to start, just to see how she follows this racing pursuit for herself. She works at a dealership by day and then works on her car by night. She was telling me ahead of this race weekend she has 15 sponsors on this car to support her endeavors of wanting to be a race car driver, and I asked her, well, what's your short-term or long-term goals? And she said simply, I'm out here, so hopefully one of the TC teams out here will pick me up as a driver next season.
Well, like you said, Calvin, she caught the eye of Victor Gonzalez, who knows a thing or two about being a 1 or 2 man band. I mean, remember, he showed up here a few years ago with his team. It was just him and his friend Mariano Cruz, and they came out and they won in TCR. Yeah. So he saw the hustle from Sally, working by herself, and said, look, come under our tent, we'll help you out a little bit, try and ease some of the burden. And when that happened, the results started to pick up for Sally at the end of the year last year. Had a best finish of 4th at Road America, and I think the sky's the limit. She's really improved.
Well, I think the cool thing is that Jim Jordan, the class manager here with the TC classes, understands grassroots racing, and that's really what TCA is. It's really the first pro level from the grassroots, and it allows you to then build, come into this championship at a relatively low cost point in terms of the running budget, lower horsepower car, and just gradually work your way up. So you'll see drivers possibly in TCX looking to move on to GT4 in the future, but right now we're looking at TCA to TC and then to TCX. So it's just a wonderful championship and a great stepping ladder for that.
Talked about the Bucknam family. That was a shot of Spencer and some bodywork damage at the back of that Honda. And again, I mentioned the Honda in the bloodlines with his grandfather, Ronnie, running for Honda in Formula One back in the 60s. And it's fitting in many ways to see Spencer also Honda powered for the LA Honda World Team.
Right, yeah, you're spot on there with the Honda Association. You know, the family are well known with the Honda family, and it's great to see Spencer continuing that tradition.
Jeff would have made his Indy 500 start powered by Honda himself. Here's a fight, though, for the lead. This is Kevin Boehm right now putting the pressure on LA Honda World with cars in multiple classes, and it's Pombo out in front.
Yeah, and this is cool. Kevin Boehm, oh, see a car spun around there. I think that was Jacob Rude, but similar color. Anyway, we'll get back to that one. But Kevin Boehm qualified on the pole, but then had a technical infraction, but this year he's running more of an engineering position. Last year he was working on the car, his own car himself. This year he's engineering for the Skip Barber racing team, and by that he's then exchanging the gift of having some real mechanics outside of himself working on his race cars. So we'll have to see how this works out and maybe give him a bit more time to really focus more on the engineering and him as a driver rather than doing the nuts and bolts every weekend.
And he knows a thing or two about engineering these cars, because his day job, Kevin Bohm, is a senior vehicle dynamics development engineer and test driver for Honda Research and Development. And he did a lot of the testing for the road-going Acura NSX when it debuted a few years back, drove at tracks all over the world as part of the testing program. So he's got his engineering chops, but he's been really quick, first at the club level, winning SCCA runoffs and things of that nature. He was a winner in his first season of the championship in TCA back a couple years ago and very nearly stole the championship out from under Eric Powell in TC last year.
Yeah, he did. Just a first-class guy, lives and breathes it along with his wife Sharon, and they do a great job in terms of keeping us informed, keeping us up to speed with how the weekends are going. But you know, every night, you know, they're involved in this race program in some way or another. If they're not actually physically working on the car, they're certainly thinking about every aspect of it. And that's what it takes. And that's why there's so much passion at this level of the sport.
This is it. This is for the lead. Matt Pombo in the LA Honda World Honda. It's Kevin Bohm up the inside, and he takes the top spot, but he slips out wide. Can Pombo come back? Not right now, at least. Kevin Bohm from 6th to the lead in just 11 minutes.
Yeah, he seems to be able to roll a little bit more speed. His car is really hooked up nicely right now. Early days in terms of this run, so have to see how it does on the longer green flag run here this afternoon. But right now his car seems to be a little bit superior, and he's doing a great job behind the wheel.
Kevin was 3rd and 1st in the pair of races at Sonoma here a year ago. His first ever races in this car. Had the fastest lap of the race in class in that second race. A couple of updates to give. That spun car, I believe, was Olivia Askew. That was running out of the same shop as Jacob Ruud, so a lot of their paint schemes are similar, but we saw her drop well down the order. She's now 17th overall, one of the TCX cars. So that's my speculation there. And another thing to update you on is that Catania has made the pass on Strimer. So the final step of the podium overall now has changed hands.
Yeah, I think we saw that briefly coming through the S's. There may have been a move made there, and Guglielmi is keeping Ruud honest. The gap has been hovering between 1.5 to 2 seconds, is 1.8 currently, but he doesn't seem to have anything for him today. In fact, his fastest lap is some 7/10 slower than our leader and 2021 champion.
One last update. We were wondering about the TC Mini, Clay Williams. Remember, we saw him off the pace really early on. Well, he must be running again, because on that last lap, he passed both Jeff Ricca and Matthew Ibrahim. So he's now up to 6th in class, 14th overall. Whatever the problems were, they seem to be resolved.
Yeah, he fixed it in a hurry because he's very much in the mix still.
27 minutes remaining. We'll take a peek here at 5th and 6th. So that's Mark Wilgus and Garrett Adams, a pair of newcomers to the championship.
And that's what's fascinating, to see how these new drivers are going to compete in these very competitive classes. Got some BMW experience behind them, but you know, how they step up and how they perform at this level is a totally different deal for them. Back to Sally here.
Garrett actually did make 2 starts last year for this team. They were at Sebring, finished 3rd and 4th in those 2 races. As far as Mark Wilgus goes, this, I believe, is his pro racing debut. Dropping back to TCA, and a look at the Mini this year of PJ Gronke. He was with the Tech Sport team the last few
22
years.
22 is off, big impact there. That's turn 6.
Speaking of Tech Sport, that is one of their brand new Toyotas, or Subarus rather, after running Toyotas last year.
That was weird. He lost it really early in the corner.
It's Devin Anderson, son of team owner Kevin Anderson, who had that emotional win last year.
Wasn't that fun to see?
Yes. Right now, stuck in the tire barrier. Oh, did drive away, so that's good.
That was a strange one, because you're kind of like over the critical point of getting the car turned into the corner and keeping it stable through there, and then just suddenly, I'm not sure if he went for a downshift and it just locked up the rears momentarily or something like that, but strange one.
This is the new Subaru BRZ TCA customer car that Techsport went a long way towards developing. Based on the 2022 Subaru BRZ front engine, rear wheel drive, 2.4 liter engine in that machine. Whoa, that's a big moment there. LA Honda World versus Skip Barber Racing School team.
Fukuda there behind the wheel of the 42.
Good to have Ken back after running both of the races a year ago.
It's pretty racy out there today.
Say so. That is for third in TC. Mike Lamara, no slouch behind the wheel. And we should note, this is LA Honda World, similar logos, similar drivers, similar cars to a year ago, but they're running this program in-house. Last year it was run by LAP Motorsports, which runs the Minis. But for various reasons, they've elected to go different ways, and everyone told me everything's congenial, we're all still friends, but they decided to do this in-house from LA. So it's probably a bit of a learning curve, despite so much of LA Honda World staying consistent from a year ago.
Whoa, big twitch there. It's almost like a Scandinavian flick. He was setting up for the heading corner there.
Calvin, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to make the exact same reference.
That was wild.
Great save, Mike Lamara.
It was a little twitchy there, maybe a bit too much rear brake bias in that car that he was trying to control, but nonetheless he kept it together, didn't make the big error and open up the door. Certainly made it entertaining for the following driver.
Fukuda started 4 races last year, best finish of 5th at Watkins Glen. He's closing right back in, looking for a first career podium.
He's feeling it. His car is working well. A chance here of getting that podium.
Made the pass on Catania. I should say Catania has dropped back, so that's a TCX car. Must have had some kind of issue because he's now in the middle of the TC field. Adams has worked his way around Wilgus for 5th overall in TCX as well. And here we go, Fukuda closing in into the braking zone.
Yeah, I think he's got a much faster car right now. He's just got to be patient with it and pick his moment because his car is able to carve the corners a bit more effectively. Looks like Lamara's just hanging on a little bit, and there's still a long way to go. We're not even halfway in this 40-minute race.
And the Skip Barber Racing School team last year is the team that fielded eventual champion Eric Powell, who had great success running with them last year. So there is the pedigree. Oh no, Joey Jordan stopped on track in the Mazda.
Did not want to see that today.
No. Get a good look at where that was and if he's in a safe area. If so, will remain green.
It's that kind of no man's land between turn 1 and the cut through to turn 6. I'm not sure if he's stranded out there possibly.
This looks like a fight for position here. Nicholas Barbato, you might remember him from Indy last year. He started on pole in his first career race in the Hyundai. Had podiums in both races. He's back for the full season with Gen Racer and now doing battle with Clay Williams, who's got that TC Spec Mini flying back up through the field.
Yeah, back up to the 5th position. So good to see. Clay is a really good driver. He's always involved in the thick of the action last year.
He's West Coast based, young man. He told me this is the home track and was really excited to get a chance to drive this car here. The team approached him and asked him, hey, what do you think about making the step up? And he said, absolutely, give me more power.
It's a real hot rod.
This is a car that's been totally developed in-house by LAP Motorsports that runs the Mini team with the blessing of Mini USA. Mini has come on board, big help out financially to some degree, but certainly providing technicians. This is one of the cool things about this Mini program. They've been doing it for years, where in their local markets, they'll reach out to the local Mini dealerships, and based on performance or tenure or whatever the category might be, these dealerships will reward their employees with a chance to work on effectively the same cars they work on in their day job, just as Louis Pericarpi, the team owner, told me. Same car, just with a roll cage and maybe a wing on it. And it seems like they really enjoy that chance.
Yeah, no, that's a really unique setup, but it's working. I mean, there's a lot of men and women out there who really have the technical expertise, but they don't have the door open to integrate with a race team, and Mini are now providing that platform for them.
Look how fast that car has been in a straight line as Fukuda takes the lunge up the inside. This is for the podium in TC. Ken Fukuda gets the job done. Just as we saw the race vision powered by AWS talking about how fast the Mini is, and look who is lurking right behind this fight.
Yeah, it's go time for Fukuda because that Mini is coming in a hurry, so he needed to get around Lamar, who seems to be struggling a little bit. The car seems to be sliding around on him a little bit from what I can see from outside the car.
Nearing the halfway mark in the race. Amanda, an update from the pit lane.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to the conversation you guys are having on Clay Williams and how strong that car is. You go back to Indy last year, he swept that weekend with back-to-back wins. But if we think ahead to tomorrow, the grid here today was set because of practice time. We had a couple red flags in qualifying earlier today that there was no real grid set. But based on this class, the grid is set tomorrow based on best lap time. And currently, if my looks are correct over these times, I think that might go to Clay Williams there.
I think you're onto something. That car is hooked up after whatever the issues were that caused him to slow on that first lap. He has been charging. Here he comes, looking to the inside of Lamara. Not quite close enough to make the move this time. And that's great news for Fukuda, who's able to build up a gap.
Yeah, but I think Williams has got so much pace. If he can clear Lamara here, maybe he can go and chase down Ken as well. So great point by Amanda there, and I like the way she's thinking. Yeah, Williams does have the fastest lap of this race in his class right now, so that would give him pole for tomorrow, but he wants a few more points as well. Start of the year, great to get after a good, strong start.
Fukuda went wide and the entrance to the chicane. That's going to bring Lamara. That's going to bring Williams right back to his back door. Williams, as Amanda said, did win twice to close out the season at IMS, but that was in the TCA car. This is his first start in TC, and he is right on the pace. Third, fourth, and fifth in TC in the camera shot.
Yeah, good battle. Good battle.
Look at the jump out of the corner there for Williams.
Yeah, just different cars, probably different gear ratios, where you find the sweet spot, where you're ringing the car's neck in one gear and trying to grab the next one. Looks like the Mini is in its sweet spot gear ratio-wise coming off that corner.
He did tell me there are a few corners at this track where the gear ratio is not ideal, so it's a bit of a give and take, as you would expect. Back to the front of the field, Jacob Rude and Stephen Cugliari. All of a sudden, this closed up to less than a second, Cal.
Imagine that. We forecast it, and then Jacob had such a strong start. Some of this will come down to your starting tire pressure. If you start a little bit higher, it's going to generate the energy and the grip sooner in the run, but then you can topple over the edge a little bit. And maybe Stephen has just got a car that's coming to him a little bit in the second half of this race.
It's looking that way. Rude does have the fastest lap of the race so far, a 1:52.3. That last lap, though, a 54.2. So don't know if there was traffic or perhaps just tire degradation. But his pace has dropped off considerably. And Cugliari turning in 53.7 the last time. So he's only about 0.7 of a second off of his best lap of the race. And we're over halfway in, so he's done a nice job managing those Pirellis.
Yeah, really great job, and this is going to be a great battle. I really hope, I haven't had it confirmed that Cugliari's here for the year, but I hope he is, because these two will put on quite a show.
Our leader in TC, Kevin Bone. Crown Strike sponsorship on that car, but running this year out of the Skip Barber Racing School team tent. And as Calvin talked about earlier, now engineering for that team. Should point out that Skip Barber squad also has the leader in TCA right now, Carter Fartuck, debuting the new generation of the Honda Civic TCA car. Started on pole and has built a lead of nearly 5 seconds right now over Gresham Wagner. Cool story there. MX5 Cup regular over the last several years, making his debut for the Tech Sport team, and he is a quick driver behind the wheel. Started a little bit further back, 5th or 6th, I think, and has raced his way up to 2nd.
Yeah, and we anticipated some of that just based on how the grid was formed from practice session 2 times, and people on different agendas, whether they ran new tires or whatever. So that's one of those situations where he had a lot more pace than the grid position had showed.
Well, I led you astray there, Calvin. I was wrong. I thought he started further back than he did. He actually started 2nd, so he runs 2nd. My bad.
Correction, he was showing all that he had yesterday.
But he is a cool story, actually, Gresham Wagner, as we watch this fight here. Sally McNulty in the car at the back of this group, 5th and 6th in the TCX class, excuse me. This is Sally, though, in a TCA car. The TCX car's coming through.
Yeah, when you go green, you're going to deal with lap traffic, even though it's a 40-minute race here. Just the delta in times between the TCX to the TC to the TCA fastest lap times. Looking at that yesterday in dry conditions, Strymer had the fastest time at 152.7 in TCX. Fastest TC time 154.8. Carter Fartuck a 159.8, so about a 7-second delta between TCX to TCA. And when you get a long green flag run, you rock around this racetrack at a more rapid rate, and you will get into a lapping situation.
Timing and scoring is showing that Jeff Ricka, the Gin Racer owner-driver, has had to head to pit lane. He's driving the Hyundai Veloster in DCT TC. Change in position here. Looks like the Mini of Williams has gone up a spot and now is seeking a spot on the podium, it would appear, if he can make the pass on Ken Fukuda.
Yeah, Fukuda's going to really have to hang on now, because that Williams Mini has shown a lot of pace. And, he's showing patience as well. Had that little issue on the opening lap. Something was amiss there. I believe technically, I don't think he was just recovering from an off on the racetrack, but nonetheless has had pace ever since.
He is just working over Fukuda at the moment, trying to break up this Honda party at the top of the TC field. It's Mini versus Honda here, heading into turn 6, and Clay Williams has the pace.
So they come off this corner again. It can come down to the different gear ratios or running different transmissions, of course, between the different manufacturers. As you said, there's some corners on this racetrack where the Mini doesn't like its gear ratios. It's not ideally suited.
Someone up on the rev limiter.
And that could be part of that, you know what I mean? Rather than grabbing an extra gear and coming back down a gear, you'll just wind it out and even use the rev limiter to slow you for the next corner. Get that engine braking as well to assist you decelerate a little bit.
This has been a really good drive for Williams, not letting the frustration get to him. A young man, not a ton of racing experience, only got his first wins in TC America at the tail end of the year last year, those races at Indianapolis. Now they work their way through some of the TCA traffic. Very measured, very composed.
Otto's right there as well. He's right on the tail of Lamar now.
Yeah, that's the sister car to the Jeff Ricka machine I was talking about earlier that had to drop out, it would appear. Williams took a peek to the inside, but wasn't close enough down the front straightaway. They're going to catch traffic. That's the Hyundai Elantra N from Brian Herta Autosport. Had some run-ins with barriers this weekend. Having the best of runs right now. Looks like the leaders are able to clear it. Now Lamara does the same. And Williams, as close as he's ever been.
He's right there, and Barbado's having to be patient with that traffic. Here he is, the Gen Racer machine down at the inside. That's the 88 car right there. That's the apex of turn 4. You drop down the hill. Turn 3 is the high point. Just tons of elevation changes you can see around this racetrack.
Now this long duration sweeping turn number 6. See multiple lines through here, different things work. Fukuda's got his hands full, but did it cause Williams to have to check up?
Yeah, possibly. Could have really tried to go to power early, and the tire just gave up on him a little bit. Williams trying to take advantage. Fortunately for him, Lamar is not piling the pressure on now. Williams looks to the inside. Ken defends legit, but pretty aggressively there. Didn't want to open up the door on the entry at turn 7B.
Keep in mind, Fukuda is defending for his first career podium. Plenty of incentive to do it, but he has to fend off the man who was 4th in the TCA championship 1 year ago.
Really controlled and measured drive here by Fukuda. Can he hang on? Ton of pressure here with just under 11 minutes to go. Babada now, big run on the 73 car Lamara.
And the Hyundai starting to pick up some speed, it seems, deeper into the stint. Barbado taking a look up the inside of Lamara.
That was nice.
Yes, it was. And you could move the Gin Racer machine up a spot to 4th. Fukuda struggling there on quarter exit. Does that open the door? Williams taking a peek around the outside. He's side by side at the line.
This is going to be wild. Going to have to be brave up here through turn 1, and he makes it stick. Nicely done. Clay Williams takes away that 3rd position.
That was a bold move to make it work around the outside. Looks like Barbado still covering Mike Lamara with as much pressure as he can muster. And now we'll see if Williams can just set sail now that he's clear of this traffic.
The first half of this race, I thought Fukuda had the stronger car, but Lamara's car seems to have settled down, and Fukuda's backing up to him a little bit. This battle may not be remain constant till the checkered flag here this afternoon.
The mini team watching on the stream, so they might be a bit delayed. They just saw what we saw. Their driver working around the outside in turn 1. Not a place you see a lot of moves. It takes some guts to pull that one off.
Yeah, it does. It's big commitment. Very challenging part of the racetrack, up through the hill. Even through turn 1 there, it's the move that Clay Williams made, and then you get up into turn 2, elevation change. You can't see the exit of the corners. With these high camera shots, it really doesn't put into perspective what it's like from the driver's seat, sitting down low. You can't see the edge of the road.
Nicholas Barbado looking stronger and stronger. That's the purple and white Hyundai at the back end of this train of cars. They're working their way around PJ Gronke, who's running 6th right now in his debut for the mini team. Lamara might have been held up just a bit. Barbado takes a peek to the inside, late on the brakes. Can he get it down in time to keep it out of the tires?
Yeah, that was a commitment to the, the max level.
His background is in autocross. He's the 2013 SCCA overall Pro Solo champion. He won the championship again, solo and pro solo, in 2014. He's done time trials. He's done the GT Academy competition. He was a contestant on that show at one time. But
some of those competitions are held in the paddock. He was nearly in the paddock then.
You're not wrong. And this car is interesting. So Gin Racer has 2 of these Velosters. One of them is dual clutch. That is the one that Jeff Ricca was driving. This is the more traditional option. So they're trying a couple different solutions as they continue the development of that product.
Yeah, I love what Jeff Ricca does with that program. Really been a big fan of it in terms of making a lot happen with a little in terms of the resources, and now he's got associated with the Hyundai brand. It's pretty cool.
And Jeff last year picked up a win overall, actually, in the rain at Circuit of the Americas. Had a couple other podium runs later in the season, finished 6th in the championship, but a few mechanical issues, especially late in the year, and I'm speculating that was the case again here. But again, this is a new car they're doing the development work on, so you do expect some of that. And whatever the case, he had to go to the pit lane earlier in this race and didn't really get a chance to show his hand, but I'm sure they'll be back strong tomorrow.
He's another one of those guys or operations that's relatively small. He's doing the brunt of the graft, right, in terms of prepping everything and making the decisions and taking the financial load to pull it all together. So whenever you see someone like him get the support, it's nice and get the results ultimately.
This is the number 44 TCX car of Colin Garrett. Cool story. He's from Elmo, Virginia, near South Boston. If you've heard of the famed South Boston Speedway, the short track there, he has a ton of laps, evidently, racing around that place and has done quite a bit of stock car racing. He's drifting that machine around right now. He was 4th in the Canadian Short Track Nationals just a couple of years ago in 2019. He's made Xfinity Series starts. He's made NASCAR Truck Series starts in the past, run the regional, what's now, I guess, ARCA series. They used to be K&N and things of that nature in the past. But just let's see, 21 years old, but has done quite a bit of circle track racing, and now with the local team, also based in Virginia, Rooster Hall Racing. Great to have them back after a few years away.
Yeah, and great to see that he's got that 1111 Projects, a non-profit organization, really celebrating Veterans Day by the 1111 and finding careers for veterans in motorsports. His brother's actually in the military as we speak, so pretty cool.
Big military presence on hand this weekend. Operation Motorsport has a number of its beneficiaries plugged in with several teams, including the Skip Barber Racing School team that you see here. They've got a big car corral. They call it the Patriot Car Corral for veterans attending the races. They'll be doing that all year long, so if that applies to you, check them out. Operation Motorsport, doing really neat things for veterans within the motorsports world. And one thing I know they're super proud of, Calvin, is a number of their beneficiaries. You get plugged in with teams on a volunteer basis, have actually been hired on, and now are in the sport professionally. And that's something that I know they really enjoy.
Yeah, as we've said before with some of the other programs, like the mini program and stuff like that, this is where you can break into the sport. There's the opportunity there. You got to sort of like research it and dig deep a little bit, but there are some opportunities. How do I get into sport? Well, certainly at this level is how you can do that. And great to see some of the manufacturers and teams supporting that.
And a good run, too. This is Gresham Wagner in that Tech Sport Toyota that came through this, or sorry, it is a Subaru this year. It's going to take a little getting used to after they ran Toyotas last year. But he finished runner-up in the SCCA runoffs here back in 2018. A lot of experience in Miatas and MX-5s. Ran MX-5 Cup. In fact, is the reigning MX-5 Cup champion going back to last year. Won 5 races and stood on the podium 10 times. And it's kind of a cool story, his effort to overcome scoliosis, the back disease that he had in his youth, and forced him to sit out of racing for a number of years, and to have a surgery that turned his spine into one continuous solid bone. A 2-month hospital stay as a result, and bounced back from that, got back in the cockpit, and immediately was winning races in MX-5 Cup, and now racing touring cars.
That's great. That's really cool. That's the dedication that it takes sometimes. You can overcome adversity and other aspects of your life and able to do what you have passion for.
Coming down to the final minutes of this race, Spencer Bucknam continuing his strong run. He would finish on the podium as things stand. 3rd place in TCA with the LA Honda World Team. 3rd generation driver, as we've talked about. He's been doing some open wheel racing, but now with a roof over his head, and looks like he's a quick study.
Well, he comes from great genes.
Yes.
Certainly his grandfather and his dad were excellent racers. So good to see him making his debut with SRO and a podium run. I'm sure they'd be satisfied with that. But they're winners. They'll get greedy quickly and want a bit more, I would assume.
The Formula Pro USA F4 Western Championship champion, it's a mouthful, back in 2020, won 3 races that year, ran 3 F4 US races a year ago, the first ones of the season, but was unable to continue from there. Looking for a new avenue to pursue the passion and the family trade. So many of these drivers now at a young age see sports car racing as that golden ticket, that big opportunity where you can get paid by factories and have a lengthy career. It doesn't have to be all open wheel.
That's correct. And, you know, sometimes it's like, well, if you have the dream, I want to be an IndyCar driver, a Formula One driver, don't give up on that. But sometimes it's more wise, or, you know, there's better chances of succeeding if you get into the sports car world a little bit sooner.
And you went through that process yourself.
Yes, I did, both on this side of the water and over in the UK and Europe.
Down to the final 90 seconds, and Jacob Ruud with another masterclass performance. This is the maestro at work. How many times last year did we see him do this? There was a brief moment where Stephen Cugliari closed the gap, and we thought we might have a fight on our hands, but Jacob kept a little something in reserve and has just been pumping out laps here very consistently, and has now an 8.5-second lead.
Well, I'm curious to see what his thoughts are with Amanda after this one, in terms of, okay, you won a championship, it's just another win, but does it mean a little bit more to beat Cugliari here, because he did give you a hard time last year? how much did that eat on him a little bit, despite a fantastic season in 2021.
Brandon Tyner, another off-track excursion, making his series debut. He's run for Brian Herta Autosport, which is campaigning that car, in WRL competition, kind of a club-level endurance series, although it's increasing in its professionalism, I think it's safe to say. But coming out of karting, stepping into cars, has a great team behind him with BHA, Brian Herta Autosport. I think Brian's on site this weekend.
I did see him.
You did too, okay.
Yeah, with him and Sean Jones, who helps him with that whole racing program.
Final couple of moments about to come to the white flag, and let's hear from Amanda down in the pits.
Well, I was just going to confirm for you guys that Stephen Cugliari is going to race the full season. I was talking to his team and tell him how excited we are for this battle that we're going to see between Jacob and Stephen this year, and they said we are too. But the issue with Stephen here today was actually an understeer problem. Saw that they were really losing some of that speed during Sector 2, but I imagine they'll be back and ready for race 2 with Jacob.
Checkered flag is out. Jacob Rude, the winner for the first race of the TC America season.
I was looking at the clock and I'm thinking there's got to be close to time up by the time Rude got to the line. I'm not sure if he backed off to try and get that win a lap early.
Cugliari comes home second. Catania, Lucas Catania, who ran one race last year, raced his way up onto the podium here today in a good field of cars, ends up third in TCX. Now to the TCA field. How about the drive from Kevin Bohm? 5-place grid penalty. Did not thwart his effort one bit. He raced his way to the front, and Kevin Bohm wins at Sonoma Raceway to take the first race of the TC Championship in the TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School season.
Yeah, and that's ominous for the rest of that field, because Kevin Bohm can put in performances like that. They had some technical issues last year. Seeing when we got into the heat of the summer, they were having some issues keeping that car running on full song with some of the safety programs that are built into these race cars with the electronics. But outside of that, he always had pace, but that was a strong, strong performance.
And TCA, those leaders also took the checkered flag. Carter Fartuk in that brand new Civic gave it quite a ride. He won by 7.6 seconds over Gresham Wagner, who had an impressive debut himself, as did Spencer Bucknam. How about it? Two brand new drivers to the championship, joining a returnee, championship contender Carter Fartuk from a year ago. Really impressive stuff, but CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, really uncontested. It went to Jacob Rude by about 0.8 of a second over the next closest.
Yeah, well, that's going to put him in the prime spot for tomorrow as well. So Catania had a faster lap than Cugliari, so I think he may share the front row with Rude.
Yeah, that's true. So actually only about 0.5 seconds between Rude and the next closest, which was Lucas Catania. One of those that sampled this championship last year, ran one of the two races at Watkins Glen, and liked what he saw. Now he and the team are back for a full season.
And as Amanda pointed out midway in this show, Clay Williams had the fastest lap, and I think he hung on to that. So I think it may be Clay Williams on the TC pole tomorrow with Kevin Bohm, today's winner, right alongside.
But how close was it? Yeah. How about 0.03 of a second between Williams' best lap and what Kevin put up out in front of this race? Great job by Clay after slowing down early to charge back up to third. That's one of the drives of the race, and there were several noteworthy performances here today. Take a look at the provisional results from race 1 of the season for TC America. Jacob Rude back in the win column. Didn't take him long.
It didn't, and a really strong performance. 10 seconds at the end. Wasn't that comfortable for most of the go in there. First half of the show, Cugliari kept him honest, but didn't have enough for Jacob Rude. They'll make some tweaks tonight. This track is evolving, so you got to be ahead of the game in terms of getting the setup correct for tomorrow.
Cugliari and Catania rounding out the TCX podium. Down to TC, Kevin Bohm, Matt Pombo. Kind of a quiet run, but a solid one. He ends up second for LA Honda World, a podium for them as their first race as a standalone team in TC America. And Clay Williams with that great run in the Mini. Looking a little further down the order, TCA. The winner in TCA was 17th overall. Carter Fartuk came really close to a championship last year. Had a bit of a swoon late in the season. middle of the year, he was on fire and entered the championship picture after being way out of the hunt. He told me, the goal is the championship. We got a brand new car. There's no reason we can't get it done.
Yeah, he is the favorite coming in. 3 wins last year, 3rd in the championship, but things got away from him right at the end, but he is really in with a shout of claiming the title. But coming back this year, and I think he's going to be tough to beat, especially with that new car.
For the first time this season, we go down to Victory Lane, where Amanda Busick will chat with Jacob Rude.
And I can't imagine it's going to be the last time we're in Victory Lane with Jacob Rude. You back up 10 wins last season in a championship with a win here to kick off the season. The only person that could kind of hold you accountable last year was Stephen Cugliari, and he did somewhat here today. What do you make of this battle that's brewing between you two?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He sure did. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. First of all, I'm glad to be back. I'm thankful for the fast track racing guys, Sewell BMW, Armor Cleanse, everybody that's made it happen for me to come back this year. I'm so thankful that we're able to come back. But again, to your question, I think it's going to be a great season. I'm glad that we've got more cars involved this year that will hopefully make for some closer racing and hopefully some more CV time for TCX this year.
Congratulations on the win today.
Thanks, guys.
One thing we should mention is fast track racing. That's what the team is known as now, but this is the same classic BMW infrastructure. The dealership was sold at the end of last year. New group, they still support the racing. All along, the racing arm has been fast track racing, and Toby Grahovic not driving this year, just overseeing a lot of TC cars, a lot of probably GT4 America too. He wants to see what they can do, but they're rebranding and really putting that fast track racing brand front and center.
And they're doing it in a great way because there's a big win for them coming out of the box here and grabbing the win. And I think with Toby, great driver, always in with a shout of race wins and championships himself. But by focusing more on the customer side of the racing program there, even if he just does it for this year, allows that to build and get to a very strong point.
How about Kevin Boehm driving from 6th to the lead and ultimately a dominating win? He's standing by in Victory Circle.
Well, Kevin, Ryan was just talking about your pursuit from 6th to this win. I saw you come across the finish line with the one hanging out the window. When you look back at this drive, what was key for you in this win?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was patience. We got to the lead fairly quick, but, I mean, it was just picking the right moments. And then once we got to the lead, it was kind of just getting into a rhythm, and the tires were not liking the track at the end, but just trying to find a pace that we could drive all the way to the end was key, and that's what it took today.
Congratulations, Kevin.
This has been a good track for Kevin. He won a race here last year. He won a national championship in the SCCA runoffs here in the STU class back in 2018 as well. So he knows his way around this place in a Honda.
Yeah, and I think with that changing of role, I think just mentally it's going to give Kevin a little bit more time to just focus on the racing side. Yes, he's got the engineering position within the Skip Barber organization, but I think not having to do the nuts and bolts will give him even more headspace to work on his driving.
And one more winner to check in with. It's the TCA winner with Amanda.
And with a 7.6 second lead, Carter Farchuk picks up the win here in TCA. And Carter, what have you figured out about Sonoma that helped you today?
Well, last year was my first year here, and I was struggling a lot. And with the new car, honestly, it was just the team that was behind me. I mean, we did so much preparation this year, way better equipment and everything, and it showed today. I mean, I was able to drive this Honda HPD Skip Barber Racing Civic Si, 11th gen, too, to a victory, and it was all because of Skip Barber and all those guys that worked hard. So can't believe it. It was awesome.
2019 Saleen Cup Young Guns champion. He won 3 races and stood on the podium 5 times last year en route to 3rd in the TC Championship, and has his championship bid off to a great start with a win at Sonoma. Race highlights. This is the TCX field storming up the hill for the first time, and Steve Strymer started on pole, but couldn't keep it there, Cal.
No, he went side by side with Cugliari into turn 2, had to give it up, and here's the TC start. LA Honda World leading the way.
Interesting, that fight a little further back between Williams in the Mini and Boehm in the Honda. Big spin here, Devin Anderson into the tire barriers in turn 6.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm not sure if it was a downshift that turned him around. Great save here, a little bit of Scandinavian flick going on there, trying to get into the corner, but Lamara hangs on to it.
One of the best drives of the day was Clay Williams knifing through the field. He's in the Mini, but behind him, how about Barbado and Lamara going at it?
Yeah, that was great battle, and Clay Williams, great run here. side by side across the straight, and he just brave it out up through turn 1.
This was the move of the race, around the outside into 1. Here's Barbado. He's trying to make it work on Lamara. Couldn't quite get it wound up in time, but kept it out of the tire wall.
He did, dodged a big one right there.
Able to keep on going, had a decent result. Coming to the checkered flag, though, that was in TC. Carter Fartuk gets it done. Jacob Rude winning overall, his 11th win in TC America, powered by the Skip Barber Racing School.